If you're changing identities somehow right now, or you're like in an in-between phase, which can be a redundancy or knowing that you need to switch jobs, or it could be the end of a relationship, or maybe you've experienced death. What I invite you to do is just go gentle, is just surrender. Gently walk through the world like you know it's going to be okay.
Big fucking dreams. All right then. You got this.
Hey, big fucking dreamer. So pumped to be here with you today. It feels like it has been a while because since I last recorded, I was in LA. Then we went on our honeymoon to Jackson Hole and Yellowstone National Park. We went hiking. We went to Montana, which was just so amazing. And usually when I go on vacation, I just come back with a list of things that I want to do, things that I want to change about my life, like goals that I have, ambitions that I have. It's almost like a big reset. When we went to Mexico City, maybe it was last year, I came back and I was like, okay, here are all the things I want to change, like blah, blah, blah. And Chris, my husband, was just like, okay, whatever, I support you. But this time, and this is something that I actually wanted to talk about today, is that I didn't really feel any of that. Like, I completely disconnected. I wasn't on social media for about 3 weeks. I wasn't checking email. I had, one client call in LA, but other than that, that was it. What I want to talk about today is just a bit of what happens when your identity starts to change and you're in a pattern of like shifting and metamorphosis and a big pattern of transition or transformation. And this could be like positive transition and transformation, or it could be something that was thrust upon you that maybe you didn't necessarily want, but how to almost reconcile when your identity starts to shift. And I think for me, like what I've realized, and I'm going through a really big change right now. I'm going to share more about this on the podcast maybe in about, a month or 2 months or something. So stay tuned. But just going through a really big transition, and Apollo has just come into the podcast and just started growling at me for his dinner, and it's 3 p.m. But what I've started to realize is that I am not as ambitious and as driven as I used to be. And I think that I have almost some like internalized shame about that, because I almost think that, especially being an entrepreneur, there's like so much put upon entrepreneurs by the society that's like work, hustle, you got to like sacrifice everything. And I just don't prescribe to that at all. I like physically can't prescribe to that because, I have had burnout in my life before. And when I tend to overwork, burnout symptoms start coming. I also start going into like really low mood and almost like experience low grade depression when I overwork. So physically and mentally, I actually can only work to a certain capacity. But I think that for so long, I've almost thought like, this ambition and this like relentless drive was so much a part of my personality. And what happens when that is no longer the thing that's propelling you forward? And I think a lot of that in my case, like, comes with no longer having PTSD. And as I've shared on the podcast before, like I had undiagnosed PTSD for pretty much half of my life. And I was diagnosed maybe at 28 and worked with a therapist for a few years on that. And, just was so grateful for that. But it was almost like this, ambition was like such a trauma response in me that when that has been resolved, it's like, well, who am I anymore? And who can I be? And what happens when an identity of mine no longer fits? I'm working with clients right now who are experiencing this in a lot of different ways. And I think women just have these natural cycles as well of experiencing this, going through first, like starting to go through puberty and getting your period, and then it's going through childbirth and becoming a parent if that is part of your journey, and then it's perimenopause, and then it's menopause, and we go through each of these stages where somehow an identity that we previously assumed just no longer fits who we are anymore. And there can be grief, there can be longing, and it is such a change and a transition. And one of my, spiritual teachers, and Martha Beck, who I trained with and did her life coaching certification program, she calls this the change cycle. And in stage one, it's really death and rebirth. So like something happens and who you are just no longer fits. And it's almost like you're not a caterpillar, but you're not a butterfly, and you're just in the mush. And right now, I feel like I am a bit like just in the mush, where it's like, wow, I don't quite know who I currently am or what my current personality is. And a lot of this deeper identity work is something that we do in level 2 of the life and work transformation. And my next round of that starts June 25th. I'm really excited for that. It's the only one I'm running this year. But a lot of that is we look at like, who are we? Who do we want to become as well? And what are the kind of conflicting forces in the culture telling us what we should be versus like what we actually are? And going through, like, sometimes when you're in the mush, which Martha Beck calls stage 1 of her change cycle, there can be like a tendency to really want to control, or to really want to push, or to really want to hustle, versus actually just surrendering and letting go and saying like, you know what? I don't really know what's going on right now. I don't really know what I'm going to be. I don't know who I'm going to be. I don't know what changes are happening, but that's okay. And I'm just going to go out and wait and see. And I remember, like, I've been in stage 1, many stages throughout my life. And I remember when I was burned out, like that was a particular period of like stage 1 where I was just like so exhausted, couldn't work. I like had to really surrender everything that I had. And it was like, I'm not going to try and force this. I'm just going to see. And then comes stage 2, which Martha Beck really calls like dreaming and scheming. And that's where your curiosity starts to come online. And I was talking with a client the other day who is burned out and on a burnout recovery journey. And I just said, you're going to know when you're feeling a bit better and when the burnout's starting to subside, because you'll start to get curious about things and you'll almost get bored, and you'll want to start, dreaming up things and actually executing things. And then there comes stage 3, which is like when you're actually doing things, when you're doing it, the key of stage 3 is like, this is harder than I thought, and that's okay. But in stage 3, you're doing the thing, you're trying. Sometimes there's struggle, sometimes there's strife. But then you reach stage 4, which is the promised land, which is like mastery, where you've done it, you've handed it in. Whatever project you've completed, whatever thing that you've done, you've kind of gotten to the promised land and achieved mastery in some way. And then we just start over all again. And what, I really want to convey is that, like, if you're changing identities somehow right now, or you're like in an in-between phase, which can be a redundancy, or knowing that you need to switch jobs, or it could be the end of a relationship, or maybe you've experienced death, anything like that. And instead of just trying to control, trying to push forward, trying to, hustle your way through it, just almost like letting go. And I had this, there's a few things in my life right now during this time of transition where I've got question marks about a few different things. And I've spent so much time like trying and pushing and learning and executing. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to chill the fuck out. Like, I just want it to be okay right now, and to just take my hands off the wheel just to see what comes back to me. So if you are going through this stage right now, what I invite you to do is just go gentle, is just surrender, gently walk through the world like you know it's going to be okay. So this was a bit of a short one today, a short Big Fucking Dreams episode, but let me know if this resonated with you. I've been getting a lot of DMs and emails from listeners just telling me their experience, telling me their stories. It means so much when I get those, and I absolutely just love getting those. And please tell your friends, share about this. There was a YouTube comment the other week that was like, I've got like over, I don't even know how many videos now. I think I have like 100 videos and like 80 YouTube followers, which is a horrific ratio. And this chick commented and she was like, sis, I just stumbled across your videos. Like, I don't know how you're not viral. And I was like, me neither. Like, I don't know. I was like, please tell your friends, like, please share this. So if you are, I know we've got like a cult big fucking dreamers community, but if you share this episode on your Instagram, share it with a friend. That is like, this podcast does take a lot of effort and time and resources and a video editor. And, big thank you to May who worked on this episode, but I would love it if you shared it. So big fucking dreamers, I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you go out there and achieve your big fucking dreams.
Big fucking dreams.